Today I'm assembling the dry ingredients for dinner rolls into quart-sized jars. We call them dinner roll kits, and of all the dry ingredient kits that we make, this recipe and how-to is the top requested. A dinner roll kit is just that simple. It's a quart jar or a quart-sized container that holds the dry ingredients for one batch of dinner rolls. When you want to make dinner rolls, you can add the wet ingredients to your bread machine. In this particular recipe, that's oil or shortening, egg, and water. Then you dump the contents of your dinner roll kit in next, press the dough setting, and let the bread machine do its thing. Most bread machines average 1.5 hours for the dough setting. When it's done, take the roll dough out of the machine and shape, let rise, and then bake. It's so simple to make dinner rolls often when you have a stash of pre-made kits of dry ingredients, and it means you only had to wash those measuring cups once. So, I will have the recipe and what you'll need to add to your label in the video description. Keep watching and you'll see how I did my labels. In each jar, I'm adding 4 cups of flour. I measure the flour properly and loosely and level the top of the measuring cup before putting it into the jar. But to make it all fit and to make room for the other ingredients, I tamp it down in the jar. I use a folded towel on the countertop so as not to break the jar. After the flour, I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast per jar. I store my active dry yeast in the freezer, and I actually have several packages that aren't even opened, and they are all older than my youngest 4 children. My twins are 15, and I bought this yeast when I was pregnant with them. So I check it every so often to make sure it's still active. I do the test with the sugar and water, and sure enough, it works. I've not opened a package yet that is not still active. So highly recommend storing it in your freezer. So now we're going to put 1 tablespoon of yeast in each jar. Next is 1.5 teaspoons of salt per jar. That's the same as half a tablespoon. So that's what I'm using here because that's a lot easier than using 2 different measuring spoons to fill them. For sugar, you can add 2 to 3 tablespoons per jar, but since I have a measuring spoon that measures 2 tablespoons, I'm going to just do that amount. Just makes it a lot easier. Feel free to add 3 tablespoons if you like it just a little bit sweeter. And the last of the dry ingredients we are adding is powdered milk. This is often labeled as non-fat dry milk in stores. To each quart jar, we're going to be adding 1.5 tablespoons of powdered milk. So I just went through first with one of the measuring spoons and then went through with the other measuring spoon afterwards. You'll see that I ran out of one type of powdered milk and I opened up another one and used it. Both of them actually work great. Adding milk to a dinner roll recipe tenderizes the crumb of your rolls and makes it softer. Some say it even makes it sweeter. After adding all the dry ingredients to the jars, I tamp them down a little bit more and I put a canning lid on top. Now, we aren't canning these, so you can totally use used canning lids that you've washed and saved. Now, if you don't want to use canning lids and rings, you can also actually buy these plastic white lids that go on these jars. They fit, they're the exact same size as the wide mouth ones, and you can buy regular mouth lids to go on the regular mouth jars. Now that we have all the ingredients in the jar, we just need to clean up the flour and add a label. I made my label in Canva, but in the past I've done them in Microsoft Word. You could also just write on the jar with Sharpie and reference the recipe page number. Here's a peek at my recipe and how my cards look. And I will have that recipe included in the description so that you can type up your own. I highly recommend Canva. It's free and you can make it look really fancy if you wanted to. Find a cool, dry place to store your dinner roll kits and enjoy having dinner rolls more often. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope to see you again.